All right, welcome back again to module number 4. We're now in lesson number 3, and here we're going to be talking about assignments. So again, just a reminder that although with this particular lesson, I'll be sharing enough with you that you will know how to do assignments, but there is still more to learn. But anyhow, let's get going. We'll start off with a definition of what an assignment actually is. So lots of jargon there that you can go through, but the bottom line is it's a transfer of rights held by one party, the assignor, to another party, the assignee. So it's pretty straightforward. You're simply just assigning the rights to another individual. Now, as an example, there's usually a third party involved in this type of contract assignment, and in this particular case, the borrower borrows money from a local bank. The local bank receives a mortgage note, and the bank then can thereafter transfer that note to a financial institution in exchange for a lump sum of cash, thereby assigning the right to receive payment from the borrower to another entity. Now, a lot of people don't realize that banks do this on a regular basis, where you go into a financial institution, you borrow money from that bank, that lender. Mortgage document is created, then the bank or the lender has the right to sell that note to somebody else, and they sell the note for a sum of cash so that they can fill their coffers back up again and lend more money out to other individuals. This goes on a regular basis behind the scenes, and one never knows it. Now, in the American market, you may be more aware of this because sometimes when the mortgage is sold to another lender or another institution, the payments must also be transferred to that new institution. In Canada, it's a little bit different. When you take out a mortgage with a lender and that lender sells the mortgage to somebody else, the mortgage payments continue to the original lender. That's why you never know or recognize or see that the mortgage has actually been sold to somebody else. So this assignment of documents goes on a regular basis. Now, mortgage assignments, which is just what I was talking about in the previous slide there, we're going to talk a little bit more detail about these in module number 5. What we're going to focus on here is real estate assignments. Now, a big caution here. You need to understand that what we're doing is we're selling contracts. We're not selling real estate, because in the world of real estate, only licensed real estate agents and brokers are allowed to sell real estate. Anybody who is caught selling real estate other than your own real estate can be charged and fined for selling real estate without a license. So just understand there's a very clear distinction between what we're talking about here. We're not talking about selling real estate. We're talking about selling the agreement of purchase and sale, or the contract that's connected to the actual real estate, piece of real estate. That's what you're selling. You're selling the piece of paper. And actually, you're not even selling the piece of paper. What you're doing is you're selling the rights to that contract. So you can assign that contract to anybody without any transfer of funds. You can sign it over to Joe Blow and receive nothing for it. Or if there's value, you can sign it over to Joe Blow and receive some dollar value in exchange for that. Now, the question is, how much would you charge? Well, that really depends upon a few things. Simply supply and demand. How many people are actually looking for that type of property? If it's a buy, fix, and sell, a flip, how much potential profit is there in that particular flip? Same thing if it's a buy and hold. What is the deal? How much margin, how much instant equity is there in the deal, or how popular is the property in the first place? And how easy is the deal for the buyer to actually get into the transaction? So if you make it more difficult, then it's going to cost. You're not going to be able to charge as much. But if you make it effortless for the buyer to buy the property and take over the property, then that has some significant value for them as well. So what can you actually assign within the world of real estate? Well, pretty much anything. You can assign single-family homes, duplexes, triplexes, small apartment buildings or large apartment buildings, small and large land options, lease options as well, whether they be sandwich lease options or purchase lease options or the buy, fix, and sells. Pretty much anything you have under contract can be assigned to another party. So when you are creating an environment that you want to assign the contract, there's certain things you may have to do. You want to, in the purchase and sale agreement, you want to make it known to the seller that you may be assigning this contract. So therefore you need to put your name. In my case it would be Ken Beaton and or assigns. Or I would put Ken Beaton and or his nominee. What this does is it allows me the right to assign the contract to somebody else. Now, speaking with my lawyer recently, in my jurisdiction, apparently I do not have to do this in the purchase and sale agreement. Same thing, I don't have to put this clause in there. This clause basically says that if and when I do assign the contract to somebody else, then I will be released of any responsibility or liability with respect to the original contract. So that if the person I assign this property to or this contract to, if they fail to close on the transaction, I have nothing to do with that. That's going to be between the original seller and the new buyer. My lawyer is saying that in my jurisdiction, we already have provisions in the law to allow us to do this. However, through more conversation with him, I said, is it okay to leave this in and structure it this way? That way, I'm sure that I'm covered. Plus, it is more or less covered across the board. So if you are in an area where your lawyer says you don't need it as well, you know what? It's up to you. You can decide whether you want to put it in or not. From my perspective, I think it's best to leave these clauses in there and just to be that much more safe that everything's going to go smoothly. Now, there's some challenges with this. And some of the biggest challenges are how much of an assignment fee you should actually charge or can charge to the potential purchaser of the contract. And then having enough time to find buyers. You know, once you get the contract or once you have the property under contract and you want to assign this contract to somebody else, having the time to find potential buyers for that. Well, you should always be looking for buyers through your networking, and you can always ask for more time as well. And then you also want to build in more time through the stacking of conditions. So let's talk about always looking for buyers through networking. So where I live, there's a couple different investment clubs. Oreo is the Ottawa Real Estate Investment Organization. RAIN is Real Estate Investment Network. You have Craig, and there's all kinds of investment clubs across the country, throughout North America. So what you want to do is identify these clubs, join the clubs, and start networking with these people and talking to people to find out who's looking for what. You can also start advertising, looking for buyers, saying that I know certain people who make a lot of money just doing assignments, and what they're doing is advertising for opportunities they don't yet have under contract, but what they're doing is they're building a database of people looking for properties. So they'll advertise something like investor currently marketing a sixplex for sale through assignment. So people call on it and he's, oh, sorry, that particular deal is already gone, but I'm always getting other deals. Can I put you in my database? So you're constantly building up this database. You can also simply ask for more time from the seller. Now, sometimes the sellers aren't aware that you're planning on assigning this contract. And for some reason, some sellers get their knickers in a knot, because they think, well, I sold it to you, I didn't sell it to Joe Blow. Well, it doesn't really matter who buys the property in the end. If you've agreed to sell it for a certain price under certain terms and conditions, then it really shouldn't matter who is going to honor that contract. But for whatever reason, some people get their, as I say, knickers in a knot, and they don't like that. However, if you explain to them the situation, sometimes what you can do is you can ask for a 48-hour, 72-hour first refusal clause. What this does is that it allows you the opportunity to market looking for a potential purchaser or somebody who is willing to take that assignment from you. And if in the meantime the seller still has the opportunity to sell their property. If somebody else comes along with a cash offer or a better offer and the seller wants to take it, they have to give you 48 hours or 72 hours first refusal, telling you, are you taking it or not? So you're not really committed to it at this point in time. It's like a 2 or 3 day option on their property while you try and find a buyer for that assignment. Another way is to build in more time through what I call stacking of conditions. Now, I don't see very many people doing this type of offer. It's certainly not the norm in the real estate industry. A lot of real estate agents don't like it because a lot of real estate agents really like things to be kept simple and clear. They don't like things when they get a little bit convoluted and gray, which I can appreciate and understand, but that's where we get some opportunities. So you typically ask for receipt of documents such as expenses, rent rolls, profit and loss. Again, depending on the property. If it's a single family home, you may just want the house expenses. You're not going to get rent rolls. You may want to have your offer reviewed by your lawyer. You definitely want to have the property inspected to make sure that it is in good condition. And you're also going to want to have a clause in there allowing you time to get your financing in order for the property. Now, typically, especially for single-family homes, they will allow you 7 to 14 days to get all of this information gathered together, to review it, to have your inspection done, and get your financing in place. That's the typical. Now I'm going to show you what stacking is all about. Don't worry too much about the actual reading of this document. I know the print is very small, but I needed to get this amount on the page. So this is part of the Schedule A, part of the conditions, and what we're doing here is we're asking for all this information in 3A, items 1 right through to 11, and we're asking to have all of this information given to us within 5 days of acceptance of the offer. If they fail to give us this information or any of the information that we've asked for, then we do not have to honor the agreement. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of information in there, and if this is a single-family home, you're not going to be asking for all of this information. If it's a multi-unit apartment building, you may be asking for all of this information and maybe even a little bit more. So just keep that in mind. You can adjust it. So then we're also asking for the opportunity to have an inspection. Now, I always use the plural for inspection. I don't want the opportunity to have just one inspection. I want the ability to go back in and have multiple inspections if need be. Now, I've asked for 14 days after receipt of the documents above in order to, so all of these documents in Clause 3A, I've got 14 days after receipt of them in order to do my inspection and fulfill my diligence in reviewing all of the information in 3A as well. Okay. Then I'm going to ask for 30 days after the waiving of all conditions in Clause 3 up above. This is going to give me a grand total of up to 49 days. But when people look at this, if they are either uneducated or they're just quickly scanning through it, they don't read it quickly, what will happen is they'll say, okay, well, it's conditional for 5 days, and then they want 14 days. Okay, it was 30 days. Well, it looks like it's conditional for 30 days, when in actual fact it's 49 days because I've stacked the time frames on top of each other. So does it have to be this way? Does it have to be those dates? No, but you get the idea. You get the concept of stacking. Now, the actual contract, the assignment contract itself, is very simple, very basic, one-page document. And what you do is the assignor. So if you, for example, have found a property, a single-family house, and the house is worth $350,000 after repair value, it doesn't need very much work at all. It just needs a little bit of lipstick and whatnot. But you've picked it up for $275,000. You could assign that house to another individual and assign it for a $10,000, $15,000 assignment fee, and it's still going to be a fantastic deal to the other person. So you would be the assignor, and the new person that's buying the property from you, or not buying the property, they're buying the rights to that property, they're going to be the assignee. And you then have the property information, and you put the assignor and the original seller in there, the date, the contract's being assigned for the sum of, if we agree on $15,000, and you just fill out the rest of the paperwork. It's a very straightforward, simple document. What you do with this one-page document then is you clearly staple it to the front of the original purchase and sale agreement, and you make sure that the lawyers are given a copy of it as well. By stapling it to the original purchase and sale agreement, you're actually fixing it to that, and it becomes part of that purchase and sale agreement. That's all there is to it. It's a very straightforward, simple process. All right, so let's just go over the steps here quickly. First thing you do is you identify a good deal, an opportunity. And again, it can be a single family home, it can be a rental property, it could be a lease option, it can be just about anything. You want to make sure that you educate the real estate agent with respect to the process of what it is you're doing here. You make your offer as soon as possible, even sight unseen. I mean, if you know that it's a good deal, you know it's in a good neighborhood, what you can do is you can make the offer without even going to view the property so that you get the first dibs on the property, and you can make it subject to a walkthrough within 48 hours after acceptance, plus all of your other conditions. Now, that's how I operate, and that's how I encourage my students to operate as well, because I see so many people missing out on good deals because they want to go see the property first, then they want to get the information on the property, they want to do all their diligence and research before they actually make the offer. In the meantime, somebody like myself has come along and snatched the property out from under you. I have done numerous assignment contracts. One in particular I'm thinking of was a sixplex where I saw the property came on the market. At the time I was not a real estate agent, but I was signed up with a realtor to get the MLS listing. So it showed up in my computer one morning. I took a look on Google Maps to see where it was, recognized the area, called my agent, made an offer without going to take a look at it. My agent was a little bit taken aback, and this is why you need to educate your agents. And I explained to him, I will get it under contract first, then I'll go take a look at it, and if it's still suitable, then I will move forward with it. Why waste my time, the agent's time, and disrupt all of the tenants for the sake of looking at it unless we know we can get a good deal in place? As soon as I got that deal in place, before I even went to take a look at it, I contacted 3 or 4 people at my local real estate investment club that I knew were looking for properties like this. I had 3 people lined up to buy it, and I said it's the first come, first serve. So that's how quick and easy it can actually take place. So how much work did I put into this? I went and saw the property once during an inspection, and when I showed the property to one of the investors. That was the only time I visited the property. All of the other work I did, was prior to that was I had a meeting, 2 meetings with the potential buyer. So 3 meetings in total. I may have spent a total of 3 hours, maybe 4 hours of my time to make $6,000. I think that's a pretty good use of my time. So again, you make the offer, subject to a walkthrough, 48 hours of acceptance. Once you've got it under contract, you may or may not want to stack your conditions depending on the property, depending on whether you have made it obvious or clear to the individual. It's going to be more difficult to stack conditions on a single family house because most real estate agents are familiar with single family transactions, and it's very common to have the conditions tight within 7 days, maybe even 14 days. So very difficult, more difficult, I should say, not impossible, but just more difficult to do it with single family homes versus commercial properties. You then find yourself a buyer. If you don't have somebody lined up, while your condition time period is running, you're going to be advertising, marketing, looking for a potential buyer for that. If you cannot find a buyer by the time your conditions expire, then you simply do not remove the conditions and you walk away from the transaction. When you find a buyer, you then negotiate an assignment fee between yourself and the buyer. And I remember very clearly the wife of the gentleman that I signed this sixplex to, she came to one of the meetings and she said, why should my husband buy this assignment contract from you when we can just wait for the deal to die and go directly to the real estate agent and buy it from them and save ourselves the $6,000? And I said, well, you have every right to do that, and there is a small possibility that you could do that, but the likelihood is very small because I have two other people interested in this property as well. So if your husband doesn't take it, somebody else will. And that's the power of supply and demand. I had the supply, I had the property, and there was a demand for it. So it all depends on the market conditions as to how much you can get for your assignment fees. You then do your the due diligence on the property as well, and then collect your fee. So again, this lesson is not to teach you about assignments and how to do them so much, although it is pretty straightforward, and I think that most people would feel comfortable enough going ahead doing an assignment. You don't have to learn a whole lot more than what I've taught you here in this lesson already. But this whole lesson is about, actually this whole module is about learning about the different methods of making money in real estate and identifying which method is going to work best, and an assignment is another method. So in lesson 5, you're going to again be presented with the opportunities, and you must decide which strategy or method is best for you to use. And again, the point of all of these lessons is just to open up your mind to different opportunities and potential or perspectives, so that you can make money in many different ways within the game of real estate. So once again, any questions, please feel free to contact me at kbeaton@arcarealestate.ca, or you can wait and ask your questions directly during the live webinar. And look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Take care.